afternoon. We'll start things off on the Farm Bureau guest line. Check out favorites.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. Greg McElroy joins us, college football analyst with ESPN, co-host of Mac and Cube. He's got a college football podcast that you can listen to, and he was kind enough to put his golf clubs away and join us for a few minutes this afternoon. Hello, Gregory.
Yeah, golf clubs in the fall. That'd be new. I did, however, do a golf podcast earlier with Smiley Kaufman. So does that count?
That counts. I do have to tell you about the disrespect that Michael Borky. We're talking about a former state champion in Texas, a former national champion at Alabama, and Borky went with a picture of you in the Jets uniform on the live stream.
Love that. Yeah, need it. It's all about the Jets, man. Just as a former Jet quarterback, the first drive last night from Aaron Rodgers was a thing of beauty. I hadn't seen a drive that good from the Jets in about 10, 12 years. So it's been a while, but obviously that was the one thing the Jets did well last night. But, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I think it had just stopped after that point. It would have been great.
Moral victories for New York. That's it.
Yeah. This is one of those weekends where at first glance you look at the slate of games across college football and you're like, is this going to be one of those weekends where we're bored? And yet almost always these weekends end up delivering. What's the game, maybe outside of the one that you're calling, that you are most excited about this weekend?
South Carolina LSU is pretty interesting to me. I think South Carolina matches up pretty well. They're a group that can rush the passer. Saw them last week up close and personal against Kentucky. And to be honest with you, while Kentucky certainly played terrible by their standards, I think South Carolina was the reason why they played terrible in many different instances. And let's be real, too. I mean, LSU looks pretty dang human against SC. And that was supposed to be, one of the top offensive lines in the country and all these things. And they certainly didn't look that way against the Trojans. So how much better have they gotten against what I think is a super disruptive defensive front for South Carolina? So that game is probably of the ones that are out there. That one does a lot for me. I do like our game. I think Kentucky's a proud program, and I'd be shocked if they didn't bounce back in pretty resounding fashion. And they've played Georgia pretty well in each of the last couple of years with the exception of last year. Last year got sideways on them. But they really have played them better than most the last 2 years. So, or 2 of the last 3 years, excuse me. So I do think that our game has some intrigue. But the slate's weak, man. We got to do something seriously about college football. And I know this is an unusual year because it's got 2 bye weeks and all that other stuff, but we got to spread the love a little bit. And to basically allow people to play, a bunch of FCS, G5 teams, all that stuff here in the first 3 weeks is great. Week 1's good, but, man, we need to spread the love and not overload week 1 and have weeks 2 and week 3 be underwhelming because there's really only a couple games that really stand out as potential needle movers.
Would you be in favor of a scheduling alliance between the SEC and the Big Ten?
Did you say alliance? I'm in favor of all alliances. Just like when
the alliance of very, very, very good friends that they had a couple of years ago?
That was great. I mean, what could go wrong, right? As far as alliance,
let's go with partnership instead of alliance.
1,000,000%. I wish everybody had scheduling uniformity. I would love nothing more than for us to have a kickoff jamboree of take the top Big Ten schools, top Big Ten school from last year plays the top SEC school from last year, just like in the NFL. You win the AFC West, you have to play the division winners of the AFC North, the AFC South, and the AFC East. That's how it works. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be amazing if we had a scheduling model like that. Now everyone will say, well, there's just not the same number of conference games, and, there's not the same number of teams, and, there's 17 teams in the ACC, and there's only 16 in the SEC. Who's our 17th team going to play? Well, who cares? Play Boise. Play whatever. I feel like it should be pretty simple, and they say, well, what about the G5 programs? Oh, well, tough. I'm sorry. The G5 programs, they get a subsidy of what is created by these gigantic television revenue deals that we'll get when we eventually move to a Power 5 versus Power 5 exclusive model. That day is coming. It's just a matter of when. So I think if we just create some type of subsidy now for the FCS in the lower levels, it'd be amazing. But it's only a matter of time. We're just delaying the inevitable right now by having a bunch of games that nobody cares to watch. Like, how much have we learned from Ole Miss so far this year? Everyone feeling good?
That's where I was headed. That's exactly where I was headed. I mean, you look at Ole Miss,
I have
for example.
boycotted their games the last 2 weeks. I can't watch it. Like, I just can't. It's just not even fun to watch.
With that said, can you learn anything about this Ole Miss team based on a 76-0 win over Furman and 56-3 or whatever it was against Middle Tennessee this week?
Yes, you can, and the level of execution is good. But let's be real. I don't need to see them flex their offensive and defensive prowess against lower level competition. Like, they are now entered the realm of the top teams in the sport. Like, I'm not judging Georgia by how they play against Tennessee Tech. Like, I'm not judging Clemson, I'm not judging them based on how they play even against Clemson right now. Like, I'm judging Georgia against how they play against Ole Miss, Bama, Texas, and whoever they play in the SEC championship, assuming they get there. And then when they get to the playoff, whoever they play in the playoff. Like, that's what I'm judging them against. I'm judging them against themselves. And I think when I judge Ole Miss against themselves, the one thing that has escaped them are the wins against Bama and Georgia. And while they've been able to pile up points on great opponents in the past, they haven't done so against championship contending teams. So until I see, this version of Ole Miss play against the big boys, it's going to be hard for me to feel differently about what they can do. I think they look really efficient. They've operated with great efficiency, but I don't think that at this point I'm capable of drawing a conclusion that this group is significantly better than they've been in the past.
Well, they've got Wake Forest this week, so you should know after Saturday.
That's true. Hank Bachmeier experience, baby. Let's go. Slow match.
Bachmeier threw for 400 yards last week.
I know. Yeah. Well, he's only in year 8 of college football. I called his first start at Boise against Florida State. So, and I was like in my 20s at that point. So it's been a minute.
I am intrigued by your perspective of what's going on at Florida with the quarterback position. DJ Lagway clearly is the future. I did their spring game this year, and I came back, and it was like, okay, the ball comes out of his hand differently than it does most quarterbacks. But he's really young. Obviously, what he did last week was against Samford. Graham Mertz, I mean, they come out of spring, go into the fall, and that's his football team. And there's a lot of respect for him and what he's done. He played pretty well last year. What would you do if you were in Billy Napier's shoes with that situation as they host Texas A&M this weekend?
I'd play Graham Mertz. And I think while I think Lagway might very well be the future, and I know people are all up in arms about, put him on the Heisman ballot with his performance against Stanford. I'm not saying he's not a talented kid, super talented kid, but I saw him get pressured one time in that game. I also watched him the week before against Miami, and I don't think he looked great. Do people just forget how he looked in the fourth quarter of that game against Miami's backups? Like, it wasn't like he was blowing away the competition. It's not like he, sparked a comeback or anything. I guess that's where I'm having a tough time generating the amount of momentum that this Lagway conversation seemingly has. Like, I haven't seen enough from him against Power 5 competition to make me feel like he gives him the best chance to win. Now, he might, in time, develop and be very capable when he steps on the field, but nothing I've seen up to this point makes me believe that. So, now, I've seen Graham Mertz go out there and beat Tennessee. Like, I've seen it happen. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. So I think he's still, at this point, in a gotta-have-it situation, must-win situation. I still think he gives you the best chance. So I can't be on board right now with replacing quarterbacks with unknowns. And this is not exclusive to the Florida situation. This is at Auburn, where they're clamoring for Hank Brown. Like, what? I'm not saying Peyton Thorne played well, but did we watch the game? And he had 4 picks. People keep pointing, both 4 picks. 3 of them I didn't think were his fault. Yeah. He got hit on one. The receiver stopped running on the other, and the other receiver didn't even see the ball on a back shoulder that was perfectly placed. And the defender made a nice play. Now, the one at the end was definitely his fault, but he was pressing because there's 27 seconds left. He had to score a touchdown. He's on his own 35. So, same thing's been going on at Notre Dame. Oh, we'll just replace Riley Leonard. Like that'll fix it. Well, I mean, C.J. Carr is a true freshman. Like, it's not like he's guaranteed to be better. I think just, fan bases want, and I understand this, they want people in there that have yet to disappoint them. And that makes sense. But the coach sees these guys in practice every day. And I've still yet to meet a coach that is going to intentionally play the guy that doesn't give them the best chance to win. The coach is always going to play the guy that gives him the best chance because his job depends on it. So I'm not one that just rips off the Band-Aid and says this guy can't play anymore.
Okay.
And we don't want him anymore because he had one bad outing.
Greg, appreciate your time. We're out of time. Hope we can chat again soon. Good visiting with you. Thanks so much, bud.